Hey there, it's about a day and a half before we reach Ottawa, inshallah, and I'm really looking forward to seeing my old haunts. There are places there that I have not seen, well, obviously since I've been there. There are streets that I long to walk down and have memories that I would get weepy at if I talk about on here. And sorry if I'm in an odd positioning, but light in the living room's gone. I'm not going to get another bulb until, well, I come back from Ottawa. Because, well, it's a day. But I wanted to do a movie series one right now. I'm just going to look at a few of my favorites from the series. I'm going to talk about the first one. And if you're a fan of English comedy, then, or if you're a fan of comedy in general, then there is no reason at all that you should not have seen some of these films. Because, like Monty Python and many other comedies, this is something that needs to be watched by anybody that likes film and comedic film. I'm going to mention a couple names, and let's see if you get it. If you haven't, then you got to look into it. Kenneth Williams, Sid James, Barbara Windsor, William Hartnell, Shirley Eaton, hopefully Kenneth O'Connor, Charles Hardy. I can never get his last name right. And hopefully those names put some very nice memories in your head. If they haven't, then hopefully this video will encourage you to go out and look for these things and check them out. I know that my dream, one of my big dreams, is to travel to England. And one of the things that I want to do in England is search out these films and where they were made, if those areas are still around. And the first one that came out was actually called Carry On Sergeant. And it starred Doctor Who himself, the first Doctor Who, William Hartnell. Had a very big role in this film. This was the very first of a series called Carry On. The Carry On gang would change over the years, but there would be certain people like Sid James and Kenneth Williams, that would be forever entranced in people's minds as the premier comedies of the Carry On films. They were very much double entendre comedies, very innocent. Whereas a lot of comedies nowadays, like American Pie and stuff like that, are done very crude, very in your face, stuff like Scary Movie. These ones spoke about sexual aspects in a very innocent way. And double entendres and tongue-in-cheek. And maybe I'm old-fashioned, but I liked it better that way. The girls were actually extremely beautiful in these films, and well, many of them. And I just really enjoyed this one. This was the first Carry On film, but it is by far not my favorite of the Carry On films. It is very different. It doesn't follow the structure that Carry On would go to later on, and some would say would be the problem is that they would get too structured in their manner. The next up one that I really liked in the series, and you know what? It's one that is very much also away from the regular structure of Carry On films, and that was Carry On Cabby. And basically, Carry On Cabby has good old Sid James, who runs a cab agency, and is it his wife who feels neglected, played by Hattie Jacques, and she runs a kind of a rival cab agency with all women to basically take on her husband for neglecting her. And it's very different for a Carry On film, but I just really enjoyed this one. It was one that I used to go back to a lot. And I think one of the reasons is because this was probably the first one I saw. And I really loved Sid James. I thought he was incredible. And Charles Hawtrey, yeah, that's his name, Charles Hawtrey, was great. But we wouldn't get into the really good guys there. The really good guys, the guys that when people think about Carry On, they think about were in this one. This was kind of an almost a sketch one, and I really like it because I really like sketch stuff, really like anthology stuff. Was Carry On Loving, and this one is basically set at the Wedded Bliss Agency, where basically it's a matchmaking agency and stuff. And by doing that, kind of like a job agency, they set up little scenarios so that there can be like mini stories, which would kind of follow through when Carry On did their own TV series later on. And this one here did have all the guys that you would know. Sid James was in this one, Kenneth Williams, Joan Sims, Terry Scott. There's just so many great. This one didn't have Windsor yet, and Windsor was one of my favorites. Barbara Windsor, of course, became later on known for. If you watched EastEnders, well, she was she ran the Queen Vic for a long time. And Barbara Windsor got one of her big notices, actually in this one, I think. Carry On Camping. As you know, Carry On movies didn't focus a lot on nudity. They focused on the illusion of there going to be nudity, or talking about sex that was not shown on screen. But in Carry On Camping, we get the scene where kind of from behind, Barbara Windsor, who was very amply busted, her top comes off during a kind of a exercise routine. Many boys would, of course, be would watch this scene over and over again on loop. Not me, of course, because I'm way above that. But it was a great scene, I got to say. But Carry On Camping was another one of my favorites. It just seemed to get everything right. And the one that I wanted to talk about, the one that is most important to a lot of the guys that are on this channel that don't even care about comedy or never watch an English thing that's not horror, is this one. This one that's probably one of the more famous for horror fans. And actually didn't have Sid James in it. I think at this time James was there were kind of like there's contract negotiations stuff going on. I don't remember right now, but that's what it seemed to hear. It's been a long time since I've seen the documentary on Sid James. A documentary movie. It's a movie, kind of biography movie done called Core Blimey, which I really highly recommend. It's a very good film. And this one's called Carry On Screaming. Basically, what they do is they take on the Hammer films and the horror films of today, and they pretty much like it's a send up for those films. Very funny. Kenneth Williams, Joan Sims, Jim Dale, of course, is a pretty much straight man in these films here. Bernard Breslau, Peter Butterworth, just some really great guys. This one also got to the horror and Doctor Who aspect because, like I said in the first one, the first Doctor Who was in Carry On Sergeant. This one has the third Doctor Who, Jon Pertwee. He would be in Carry On Screaming. It tends to be a favorite among horror fans, and actually among some Carry On fans as well. Carry On Screaming just seems to get it all right. It's a very fun, easygoing, nice Carry On film. Very innocent, and one you can watch with you can pretty much watch most of these with your kids. And I like that fact. It's very PG, and it's unapologetically so. So, but just in case you're not sure, take a look at the Carry On movies yourself before you show it to the little ones. I'd say 10 and up would be good for it because it's a very silly, naughty humor that you might get and they mightn't, but they would get more of the physical sight gags. But if you haven't checked out the Carry On movies, there was something like 30. There's 30 something of these films. I've got 20 something of them. I would love to have the complete collection. The store that I used to get this at no longer exists. These were at Zellers, and these were hard to find at the time. Carry On would have a lot of different people in it. Maybe I'll do a follow-up video on this. There's an American comedian actually that worked with Carry On, which I'm not going to mention right now because I may want to do a follow-up video on the Carry On things. But let me know if you've ever seen the Carry On films, if you've collected any of them, if you enjoy them, and what your thoughts on them are. Hopefully I will soon be in Ottawa, and maybe they'll have them there because I can't find the ones I'm missing here, and some of them are actually really good, including a clip-ish documentary on Carry On that I used to watch about every 3 to 4 months. It would come on CBC television, kind of like taking the spot of something that wasn't coming out at the time. Because after all, I'm Canadian, and we do have the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation, although it's not funded well nowadays, and we lost hockey and went to Rogers. Yeah, that's another video. Thanks for watching, guys. If you haven't seen the Carry On films, highly recommend them. Check them out. Do not expect to see some gross-out comedy in this, because it's not that type of BS. I'm not a fan. I did not like Scary Movie, by the way. A lot of people love that film. I thought it was over the top and went too far for me, for my taste. It wasn't funny, and it was embarrassing for all involved. Now, Black Dynamite, that was cool. Thanks for watching, and for me right now, the kill is boiled about 5 minutes ago, so I'm going to have to reball the kill, because my voice is going. I can't see if you can tell or not, but it is, and it is time for tea.